the mass school shooting in Georgia. A short time ago, 14-year-old suspect.
The school shooting appeared in a Georgia courtroom today.
His father was also charged for his.
Have you ever wondered what drives a teenager to commit such a devastating act? What makes a 14-year-old carry out a mass shooting that ends in the tragic loss of lives, and how could it have been prevented? This story begins in a small Georgia town, a community much like any other, where families send their children to school expecting them to be safe. But one day, tragedy struck. A 14-year-old student walked into his high school with an AR-style firearm, taking the lives of 2 students and 2 teachers and injuring 9 others. It shocked the entire nation. But what happened behind the scenes? What could have possibly led to this nightmare? As the community mourns, we turn to the courtroom, where both the young shooter and his father face the judge for the first time. But before we dive deeper, let's ask ourselves, was this preventable? The shooter, a teenager barely old enough to grasp the severity of his actions, is now facing felony murder charges. His appearance in court was chilling, silent, motionless, and blonde-haired, while his father, visibly shaking, awaited his fate. The father's role in this case is pivotal. Not only did he gift his son the very weapon used in the shooting, but just months prior, he was warned about his son's behavior and online threats. In May 2023, the father and son were investigated after the teen allegedly posted threatening messages on a social media platform called Discord, claiming he would carry out a school shooting. These posts were not just empty words. They included photos of weapons. When questioned by local authorities, both the father and the son downplayed the situation, citing that they took gun safety seriously. The father even insisted that his son was merely a victim of bullying and that the posts were not serious. But what if that was the warning sign they chose to ignore? 7 months later, that very same teenager walked into school with a gun, an assault rifle, given as a gift by his father. The courtroom atmosphere was thick with tension. The 14-year-old had not entered a formal plea, and the judge had to correct himself on the severity of the punishment. Because of the boy's age, he won't face the death penalty, but he could still receive life in prison. His father, however, faces second-degree murder and child cruelty charges, which could lead to 180 years in prison if convicted. But here's where things take an even darker turn. As the prosecution laid out its case, they highlighted how the father knew about his son's violent tendencies, social media threats, and even photos of firearms. Yet, instead of keeping those guns away, he made the tragic decision to arm his son further. Was it denial, neglect, or simply a fatal error in judgment? This incident has chilling echoes of another high-profile case, the Oxford High School shooting in Michigan. In that case, too, the shooter's parents were charged after their son, who had shown signs of instability, was given access to a firearm. There are disturbing parallels in how both sets of parents ignored glaring warning signs, choosing instead to believe their children wouldn't follow through on their threats. As we wait for more details to emerge, the father and son will next face a grand jury on October 17th. The trial promises to be emotionally charged as both prosecutors and defense attorneys navigate the complexities of a case involving a young shooter and a father who arguably played a role in the tragic event. The community is left grappling with questions of blame, prevention, and justice. Could this tragedy have been stopped if the father had acted on the warning signs back in May? How does a parent aware of their child's mental state make such a devastating decision to gift them a weapon? Of course, guns play a central role in this tragic equation. In the Georgia case, the shooter used a weapon gifted by his father. The father knew about the warning signs, but still, the gun ended up in his son's hands. It's a story that's repeated far too often, access to firearms being alarmingly easy, especially in homes where guns are not properly secured. The chilling reality is that in many states, it's legal for minors to access firearms as long as they're under adult supervision. But what happens when that adult doesn't see or chooses to ignore the warning signs? Mental health is another factor. While not all school shooters have diagnosed mental illnesses, many of them are dealing with internal battles, depression, anxiety, feelings of isolation, and bullying that go unaddressed. In this digital age, those feelings can intensify when young people are exposed to online hate, unrealistic comparisons, and the pressure to fit into a social mold. But mental health services in schools and communities often fall short. Many teens struggling with these issues are either undiagnosed or untreated, creating a ticking time bomb. This story highlights more than just a tragic shooting. It's a look into the dangers of ignoring red flags. the responsibilities that come with gun ownership, and the devastating consequences when those responsibilities are not taken seriously. As we await justice for the victims, we must ask ourselves, how can we stop this from happening again? With that said, we'll continue to follow this story closely. Don't forget to subscribe to stay updated on this case and others like it.